and I can't think of the woman's name, but she lived down in this area somewhere. And I remember Papa going to visit her. He called her Aunt somebody, and I can't think of. It was a half sister, I think it wasn't a whole sister. And
So Grandpa Phelps came from Arkansas?
that's what I'm trying to remember. It seems like that I was told that he came down here and that he didn't have a lot of history or didn't talk about himself a lot to tell anything about his past and his family.
Uh-huh.
So nobody knew anything about him. And you see, his first wife died when Papa was a baby.
This is my great-granddad.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So, we never knew any of his people.
So, my granddad had, his mother died when he was real young?
Papa's
He was the
daddy.
baby of the family.
Oh, he was the baby of the family.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So his other, 12 siblings? He had, how many brothers and sisters did
How many did we
Well,
counted up about 9.
I don't know.
and he was the youngest of the 9.
Of the 9, uh-huh.
Okay, and he was real young when his mom died.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then his dad, or my great-granddad, remarried
Yeah.
Yes,
after that.
after that.
Okay.
And so she raised him, you see.
Okay.
You know, that's the only Grandma Phelps we ever knew.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Papa's mother. Wasn't our real grandmother.
Her name was Jane.
Uh-huh.
Jane.
And she was a sister to Curtis's daddy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Sounds like we got a lot of inbreeding going on here.
And, you know, Curtis's daddy's first wife was Papa's sister.
Wow.
And see,
Ain't married.
Uncle Will and
George.
Uncle George. And there was another man.
That's what I was asking you, earlier, and I can't think of his name.
Was it? I want to say Albert, but that's not it. But he didn't live around there. He didn't. I don't think he lived in that community.
I don't know. Aunt Sally,
And Aunt Sally.
Aunt Dolly, Aunt Mary.
Yeah. Aunt Mary.
Let me see. Hub, Ed, Will, and George.
George.
That's 4 boys I know I can name. And it seems like there's another one. Is it Edgar? Or was that one of the sons of one of them?
What?
Edgar.
Um,
And no, that's not right. I don't know. Anyway, let's the women. Aunt Dolly, Aunt Mary, Aunt Sally. Is that all?
that's all I can remember.
Is that 7 that we've named?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Those were big families.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I wish I could have known some of those aunts. I wish that I could have. But you see, they married well because Uncle Jim was thought well of. Uncle Willis was thought well of. And Uncle Willis was a card. That was the smartest guy I've ever seen. He was just smart as a whip.
Yeah.
He knew a lot. None of them ever had an education, maybe 3rd and 4th grade. But they were just smart as they could be. He could have been anything that he wanted to be if he had had the education to have done it.
And he
Uncle
had
Jim
a
did
big family. There was Liburn and Eunice and Alina and Walter and Clint.
Cleet. There's another one. Another boy.
Oh,
That's my phone.
Walter and Cleet and Fred.
who?
Fred? Well,
Yeah,
Fred.
Fred.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
7 children, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Left 7 children.
And Aunt Dolly, well, had one, Monroe Tucker, you know.
That was Aunt Mary.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah, that was Aunt Mary. wasn't
Yeah,
it?
this was Aunt Dolly that
Yeah.
had the 7, that married
Yeah.
Uncle Willis.
Mhm.
Mary was Uncle Jim's, Curtis's dad's wife.
But they just had one, and that was Monroe, isn't that right?
Monroe and Lona had 2.
Who?
Lona,
Yeah, that's right, Ron
Mm.
Lummy.
and you remember Lona, Grandpa took, but both of them, he took both of them for a while, until I guess Uncle Jim married again, got another wife,
Yeah.
and kept them. And they said Lona would just get down in the floor and cry and throw fits, you know, just as a small child. And said about the second or third one she threw, Grandpa fell down in the floor and just acted just like she did, Joe threw the biggest fit, and said that broke her, said it started her so. That broke her from throwing her fits. So anyway, he kept those 2 children, you know. That because Uncle Jim was just a young'un, I guess.
Yeah.
Married this pretty girl and then lost her right away. And then he married Curtis's mother,
Belle.
Belle.
Belle. And they had a Werner and
Arthur.
Ivy and Arthur and Curtis.
And Howard.
Who?
Howard and Lucy.
Yeah, Howard and Lucy.
6
That's right.
children.
Wow.
So that was 8 children that Uncle Jim had. And you
You-
see
you
how
know,
Curtis and I like to have been kin?
Almost.
Almost.
Huh?
Curtis and I just like to have been kin.
Oh,
His half brother is my nephew. It's also my uncle. And Dimple's mother is my aunt
yeah.
and my sister-in-law. Now, yeah, what would we be? Anyway, Dimple and I have tried to figure out what kin we were.
Oh, my.
She's like, she said we'd like to be our uncle's grandpa.
Well.
We were having they call it Young at Heart group. And so it's from 50 on up, you know, the ones that want to come. So one night they were having everyone to tell their experience of how they met their husbands and, you know, and all of that. And everybody told it except me and one other woman that was older. You know, all the younger ones went.
Yeah.
Well, it was getting kind of late on in the evening, and they said, well, we hadn't heard from you two yet. And they asked me to start, and I said, no. I says, I'm too tired now, because the evening had worn on, and
Yeah.
you'd heard some emotional stories that made you cry, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And then she'd heard those that just made you cackle out.
Yeah.
And so he said, so the preacher said, well, one thing I want to know, who caught who? Wait, did you caught Curtis or he caught you? He said, I picked her right then. But anyway, that's,
What are some of the exciting things that have happened in your life?
you know, one of the memorial things that I can remember is Curtis and my 50th wedding anniversary, and where all of my family came, and so many people came, and the children and all, and the tribute that they paid to us as parents at that time, and the tribute that the friends and all paid to us, showed their love. And I remember that Dr. Barrett and his wife, and he had done that surgery on Curtis, you know, and brought him through all that, and they sent this big arrangement, you know, of flowers there to that. And that's one of the most memorial things that I can, you know, that brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
And all of our children and our grandchildren were there and took part, and all of my sisters, you remember you and Thelma and all took part in it?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
And well, you know,
You're surprised.
yeah. Well, they surprised Brian and I with our 50th anniversary.
Uh-huh.
And we went to Dallas. And they didn't tell us, you know, about it. And she said, well, don't dress up now. Don't dress up, because you're just coming to see us. Well, we went, and then we were going to go out to eat that night. And we went to a hotel. And we got there and opened the door. There was all of my sisters and aunties, and everybody was there, you see.
Uh-huh.
Trevor and what's his name?
John?
Yeah, were there, and all of them.
Yeah. Me and I was there.
Yeah,
I left Curtis sick. Judy came over to sit with him
yeah.
while I was gone. I didn't think I could
Thelma,
leave him.
Thelma came with you on,
Uh-huh.
and so it was just something. And they carried us out to eat, and we just had a ball.
Yeah.
Oh, I could have just cried.
Yeah, they really surprised y'all. You and
Yeah,
Brian was
it was a
surprised too.
surprise to me. You see, that picture that me and Brian in there on their dresser, well, that's that way we dressed, you know, that night.
And would you believe that our dresses look so much alike? Do you remember that, mine and your dress?
Yeah.
The same colored flowers, it weren't the same, but they looked just about the same. But I was dressed up.
Lord,
That was my best.
the Gloria and them had just, you know, hadn't been living in their new home, but just a little while
Uh-huh.
when we were out there.
That was so nice what
It
she
was.
did. That breakfast she fixed for us. Oh, it was great. Yeah, I tell you, we've been blessed with our families. All
Oh, we
of
have.
us
I
have.
mean, we have.
It's been a good life.
Is there anything you would have changed?
I don't think so. You know, even through the problems of health and even when Curtis was so sick all that time, we had time together and we enjoyed it. We were drawn closer to each other all the while. There wasn't anything that pulled us apart, and that we knew that the Lord was carrying us through it. It was just like He just picked us up and carried us on through it. And so I was concerned about, I knew He was, unless things changed, that He was going to leave me. And I asked Him, what in the world am I going to do when You're not here to help me anymore? He says, oh, you'll get by.
Well, you know, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about me just being by myself. Of course, Brian wasn't himself. I'd say for several months.
Uh-huh.
And he would do things, and I wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
And he got up at night, and one time he went out to the car, and I heard him. And I come to the door, and I said, what are you doing out here in the car? And I said, I was just going to see if it was still here. Well, I ought to know something was wrong.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, you come back. And I went to bed with him. You see, I slept in one bed, he slept in another. Because he worked shift work so much till we just got used to that. And I said, I'll go to bed with you, and I'll just stay with you. And so he stayed in the bed with me then.
Uh-huh.
And he'd say things that I knew wasn't right.
Uh-huh. But you didn't know what was wrong.
I didn't know what was wrong. But what he made it easier on me is, you know, the home nurse was coming out to see him.
Uh-huh.
And she came out that morning, and he said, I think I need some help. He said, I need some help. And so the nurse says, well, I'll just call the doctor and see what he says. And so she says, we'll bring him out to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And he never did come home.
Mm-hmm.
From that time on. And he stayed in the hospital there about 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks. And he wasn't himself at all.
Yeah.
And I said, Dr. Venters, I said, it seemed like everything that you do for him is making him worse instead of getting better. He says, everything that I've given him is working against him. And he said, I don't know what to do. He said, I don't know what to do. But I'm going to send him to Monroe, to a psychiatrist, and see if they can find out what was wrong. Well, he had this bladder attachment to him, you know, and everything. So when we got down there, she said, well, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take that thing out. And so I went to see him once or twice while he was there, because you're really not supposed to visit him, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I went back twice, I believe, and they kept him down there a week a little better. And they finally said that they couldn't do him any good. And so then they said, you can't keep him at home now. So they sent him out to the rehab place.
Mm-hmm.
And he stayed there until he died. He just got where he was making the awfulest noise and everything that night. The nurse said, Gloria and Johnny was here at that time, and she says, "Honey, why don't you all go home? There's not a thing you can do for him. Not a thing. He doesn't know what he's doing. And if I can, I'll call you if I need you." And she called the next morning and said he passed away.
But Naomi, did they ever diagnose it as Alzheimer's?
Yeah, that's what it was.
I know one time you said that you found him and you'd call the police and he was sitting
Yeah,
down by
yeah,
the side
yeah.
of the
He
road.
left one night, and I got out and I called and didn't get an answer. Well, I called the policeman and told him that my husband was missing. And while they were coming out this way, he was sitting down on the side of the road just before he got to the highway. So they brought him back and kept him at home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, now.
And he did some things I wouldn't want to tell.
Yeah, right. I know. I've heard people talk about, they've had a mate has Alzheimer's, and I know that must be the most.
Oh, yeah.
I have just prayed that I won't have that,
Oh, me too.
and for my
Well,
children to go through,
But,
because this real good friend of mine, Palma Page, had it,
uh-huh.
and Lester hurt his back. She passed out, or fell, and he tried to help her up and got his back out of joint, and he couldn't wait on her. Well, they had to take her to the nursing home. Well, one of her granddaughters wanted to keep her, wanted to take her and keep her, because Patty worked, and she had a bad back too, and she couldn't take care of her mother. So, her daughter wanted to take her. She said, "I want to take grandmother." She'd only been in the nursing home for a couple of days. She said, "I want to take grandmother and take care of her." So she carried her out to her house, and she kept her there until she died. And of course they had hospice to come out to help. And different ones in the family would give her relief and come out and help her. And she kept her. And Patty told me, she said it never did seem to be a problem to her. Said she wanted to do that. And she was real close to her grandmother. Palma had done a lot of things for her, too. So, anyway, she kept her. But I never did go out to see her out there because they lived out of town, and I don't drive out of town too much. And, but I said, but I had gone to her home and visited her because she lives down just below me. And I said, I don't want to see her when she doesn't know me and all. I said, I think I'd rather remember I couldn't help. So I just sent her a card.
Well.
So I know that was something for you to go through with. Because I know when Curtis had that ICU-itis, when he had been in ICU for so long and he got mean, that he hit me one day and things like that. And I told him, I said, that is so not like him. I said, he has never done anything like that before. They said, well, don't blame him. He says, we call this ICU-itis. He said he's been hooked up to so many old machines for so long, and he says it just literally drives him crazy. Says his mind is the last thing I'm worried about.
We put Brian in the nursing home up here, and he stayed there about 2 months, I guess. And so before the day after he was put in the nursing home, they called me. I said, well, I've got him settled down in the nursing home. And I kind of just relaxed a minute. And do you know the next morning they called me that they said they had to rush him to the hospital? And I went up, I went up there, and you know what he said to me? He says, "Well, I hear you getting married again." I say get married, Brian. I've been married to you for 65 years nearly. And he just kind of grinned, and that was it. And
Just for a fleeting moment there.
you know, when he went to the breakfast table, he just leaned over just like that, just give out, you know. And they thought he had a heart attack. That's why they rushed him to the hospital.
Uh-huh.
But they carried him back that afternoon, you see.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, Lord.
Oh, goodness, that, I tell you, I watched
Yeah,
Sarah.
when he
We
told
visited
me
her
that
every week.
was fixing to get married again. I reckon he got to thinking about,
Uh-huh.
might have thinking about, wondering if I'm gonna get married again. You know.
Yeah.
I say get married again.
Oh, me. That's the last thing I ever thought of.
Well, I said, nobody wants to take care of me, and I sure don't want to, I can't take care of anybody else, so there it would be.
Well, I told him, I said, well, if I ever get married again, I will want to know that the Lord sent them to me. And I said, he's just almost going to have to speak and tell me.
Gonna have to see the burning bush.
That's right. Because I said, I've had a good marriage in a lot of years. And I said, I can't think I can be at peace to live by myself.
Yeah.
And as long as I can take care of things, I will.
Well,
And if I can't, somebody else can.
Well, I don't keep this house like I used to have them, but
But it's still a lot better than most people keep theirs. It's
Yeah.
better than I keep mine now. Because I got too much clutter in mine is my big problem.
Well, you see, I keep everything that I have to have over there by that light, and so if I have to call somebody, all the things are there. And then when I read, I have to use that little light there to read, and so. Oh.
And if you change a place and put something someplace different, you forget where it is
Yeah.
then. But if you keep it in the same spot all the time,
Yeah.
you go back to it. That's the reason the other day when the telephone rang, I had laid it down wherever I had talked like. I don't know if it was you or Rita calling me. And I was a while finding my phone. You have to. I think it was Rita. I told her, I said, I know it was a long time, but I said I had to find my phone. You know, an exciting time to me was when Rita and I came up to see your mom.
Uh-huh.
That was.
I remember that.
That was a real sweet visit.
Uh-huh.
We enjoyed that, and Rita talks about that a lot, about how much she enjoyed that visit.
I enjoyed the break.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it gave you a little bit of
A little bit of a break.
reprieve, didn't it? Uh-huh. And you know, Rita got to visit with her good friend that lives up there, Melissa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She does, and she still hears from Melissa every once in a while. They email each other.
Mm-hmm.
She had some contact with that college that's there, Melissa did.
Colorado College
Yeah,
or University of Colorado, Colorado Springs?
university, I believe.
Okay.
And somehow or other, her son was supposed to go there. But Rita says he wasn't going there, and she wondered what had happened, if she had lost her connection there with the college, or what. But, you know, Melissa's mother was sick for a long time, and she said that they ran up so many doctor bills. They were what we would have called pretty rich. But from all accounts, it took all the money that she had for her treatment when, and Melissa and them were more or less just living on their own. Then, of course, she's married and she has children, had 2 children. And the boy had some disability of some kind. I can't remember what it was. But she thought she had things worked out to where he could go to this university and all. And, you know, that it would be somehow with this, whatever she had, the connection she had, that he would have a scholarship to go there, the full scholarship. And so Rita thought that something must have happened, that she pulled out or something, that she couldn't continue doing what she was doing for the school.
You know, all of my aunts are incredible cooks. You know, and my mom was an incredible cook.
She was.
So, did grandmother teach you guys how to do all that?
Do what?
Cook. Did grandmother teach you guys how to cook?
I knew how to cook.
Yeah, we were just
I
grew
stayed
up
at home.
seeing,
You know, I
watching,
stayed
I
at
guess.
home. Even after I finished high school, a year or two before I went and took a beauty course, and I helped mother cook when she was cooking for boarders. You know, that was building that highway up there. You know, there were so many of the men would come and eat at our house, and I never will forget. Mama paid me some, you know, because they paid her, and so I helped cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must have been after I left.
I guess, yeah.
You know, I made desserts. I don't know what, I can't remember if it was pies or cakes or what, but I could cook some desserts.
Yeah.
But that's about all I ever cooked at home. But I know I was always, I had to learn after I moved away. Like when I moved to Bossier, I didn't know what kind of meats to go to the store and buy to cook with my vegetables, because Mama always, we went to the smokehouse and cut it.
Yeah.
Had raised it, and we had that home raised, and so I asked one of the Moore girls. I said, "What do you cook with your greens and things? You know, vegetables." I'd bought some and I wanted to cook them, and I didn't know what to season them with. I believe she said fatback. Something like that. Well, I didn't know what fatback was. But I don't know how I learned, I guess by trial and error. I remember one time when I was living there at the Tucker place, and Curtis and I had gotten about a dozen little old chickens to raise, and I was going to raise me some fryers like Mama did. You know, she could raise the plumpest, best chickens. Well, them little old chickens just didn't grow off. And I told Mama one day, I said, "Mama," I said, "my chickens are not big enough to fry yet, and I want some fried chicken. Will you let me have one of yours, and when mine grows up, I'll pay you back?" Papa said, he said his words, said, "Now Lou, give her one of them chickens." Says, we don't want her little stringy chickens."
You know, when Brian and I were living in Sterleton, he made a brooder house, you know,
Uh-huh.
and he raised chickens in there, and those were the best chickens that you could eat.
Uh-huh.
Oh Lord!
Well, mine were just in a little coop-like thing. And evidently we didn't have the best feed to give them and not much of it. They weren't growing off too fast. And when they finally did good, they were kind of tough.
Well, I guess that when I later on in years, I cooked pies a lot,
Uh-huh.
and Johnny gave me that dish on top of my ice box.
Uh-huh.
I like your pies, you know, or something, you know,
Uh-huh.
and I just put it up there so everybody could see it. And I guess I just loved to make pies, you know.
Uh-huh.
And I cooked a pie nearly every week, but I don't now, but I do.
I used to make real good chocolate pies, and I'd make some coconut pies.
Yeah,
But I don't make as good of pies as I used to. My pies are not as good. And my cake I made the other day was a flop. I was making a special cake for Newell Earl.
I made a good caramel pie.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you can make a
Yeah.
good. You can make some of the best pies I've ever eaten.
So,
But now I make good pecan pies. I can make good pecan pies.
well, I don't make pecan pies much. I get somebody else's recipe, you know, to know. And I don't know, what do you use in
I use the recipe on the K-Roll bottle.
oh, is that right?
Uh-huh. Use that recipe.
Mhm.
And it's easy to make. And so I made one of those and carried to the church. And I made a sweet potato pie. I can make a good sweet potato pie.
Now, Faye makes a good sweet potato pie, and I have a recipe that it uses her recipe that's
Uh-huh.
good. But,
Well, at one of the Young at Heart meetings, I carried a sweet potato pie.
Mhm.
And my pastor came by and he said, Miss Flo, says, if you keep it improving just a little bit, says, if you make, said, I believe your sweet potato pie will get you into the glory land. I said, you think so? He said, I believe so. He said, that is a good pie.
well, good.
But he just happened to like sweet potato pie. You know, you have to like a certain kind of pie.
Yeah. Faye used to make a pie nearly every week and give it to Don Wilkes because he brings us eggs.
Uh-huh.
And so he brings eggs once a week.
Uh-huh.
And I can't use all those eggs. So I told Faye last week, I said, I don't need any eggs. I've got 2 dozen in my refrigerator right now.
I use a lot of eggs, I guess, because I eat an egg for breakfast a lot of times. That'll carry you through a morning when something else won't. I always eat an egg if I don't have oatmeal.
Well, I do too. I rotate it nearly every other day. I eat oatmeal and toast and jelly or scrambled egg.
Well, I ate oatmeal every day for so long, I burned myself out on it. And I just had to quit for a while, but I've started back eating it now. And I eat it about at least 3 times a week.
Well, I do too.
And then I'll maybe eat biscuit once a week.
Yeah.
And
Well, I know.
and eat toast or sometimes pancakes. I am just wore out from talking. I am more proud.
Great. Let's stop.